can mention it, and not to kind of advertise it, but to kind of to address and acknowledge that when there's a lack of cultural understanding, then you will fall for anything. And I'm talking about Kanye West. We're going to talk about him a little bit with this whole idea that I'm empowering us by utilizing an image of hate and violence and rape and murder, and saying that there's something you're going to turn around and make positive. And what am I talking about, Dan?
You're talking about the new symbol that he has on his clothing of the Confederate flag?
Right.
Which, I mean, I personally, the reason I'm disappointed in it is for the reason that you started to mention, the history behind a lot of things, or the lack of knowledge behind the history of a lot of things, I think causes us to integrate that into our society, and the N-word is one of them,
right,
as well as, something like the kind of Confederate flag, which both symbols have caused a lot of hurt and pain to people of African descent over many, many years. So to bring it back up and try and make it your own, so to speak, I think is probably a lack of knowledge of the depth of how negative it is in our history. And I think even the situation with the N-word, which Bert has talked about many times, is a problem, because if we saw the lynching or the situations that were connected to it, the lynchings, the slavery and all the other stuff that was a huge transgression against our people, I don't think young people would be so quick to use the word, even if it was out of respect to people who actually went through it, because we do have people in this current day that know slavery, that know that type of a situation. I think we need to make sure that young people have a little bit more knowledge before they start doing things, especially when we have young people who are as creative as Kanye West. I think that he could probably come up with a much better symbol if he really took the time to think about it.
Well, but see, that requires you to be thinking. You see, I mean, whatever happened to people that was in the public eye, they took responsibility for the things they said, and they took responsibility in terms of how they made their money. Because at least, I'm looking at somebody like, for example, like Big Brother. Okay, he said, well, I'm going to stop doing this because I don't feel right about it, because I feel that there's things I should be doing. Or Jim Brown, or somebody else like that. People that we talking about, that people say they're ancient and might not even know anything about. But these people made stands because they knew that they represented something within society and within our society.
I'd like to pick up on what you just said. I just happen to have, but regarding the N-word, Maurice and Laurie, another rapper, says, I repeatedly rap and record the N-word for the public's consumption. Far more than most, I've helped resurrect the N-word from near death and return it to the mainstream. And even President Obama claims to love my stuff. I'm sure my client, Mr. Cooper, is referring to a football player who's a wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. It was complaints about him using the N-word. Right. Here's this white guy. He says, I'm sure my client, this is a client of this rapper. He's now going into the business of representing ball players. He says, I'm sure my client, Mr. Cooper, hears the N-word shouted in the locker room every day. So why should he suffer for being overheard using the N-word in semi-private? Because he's white? That's racial profiling, discriminatory. I implore you, let my people go. So here's a rapper. A lot of these rappers, most of them work for the music plantation. They're not concerned about the aspirations of black culture. They're not concerned about that. Their idea is to please the plantation. So here you have the arrogance of this particular rapper, Jay-Z, right, taking pride, being boastful about how he spreads the N-word around. Another thing, Laurie, about that same area, you mentioned last week about the last show about this show on rappers, about how they were showing how they're doing constructive things and trying to, and that was good. I watched that show and I appreciate you letting us in on that, and we checked it out. But there's one person on there, Snoop Dogg, who constantly, continuously regularly it refers to the abundance of hoes in the community. Not prostitutes, let's say, black hoes who are just so promiscuous. And he has a hard time keeping up with them. And he wished he was an octopus. Octopi have eight tentacles.
Right.
He could then service 8 holes at a time. That adds to the negative. So that's poison in the otherwise good movie or show. But it has that element of degrading us in addition to the degrading of the N-word.
It buys into the hypersexuality of black women.
Yeah.
And the rationale for rape and attacking them because of their own desires or whatever. So I don't even know how you could even take that.